The Pentagon holding its first news conference following the launch of Operation Epic Fury. Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane announcing the deployment of additional U.S.
Iranian's USS Abraham Lincoln, which happens to be a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier of the United States.
More interceptors coming off and more fire coming in here, so just stay with us here, John. You see these.
5:16 local time, 4th of March 2026 of Persian Gulf. Iranian Revolutionary Guard forces have launched a coordinated hypersonic ballistic and drone assault against a United States Navy aircraft carrier operating in international waters. 16 weapons, multiple confirmed impacts, American casualties reported on the flight deck and below, and what defense officials are already telling the press, the retaliation had been fully executed before the last Iranian drone even crossed the radar horizon. 8 minutes from first impact to the total annihilation of Iran's entire hypersonic missile program, its Western Naval Command structure, and every drone launch platform Iran spent a decade building. The destruction, according to classified battle damage assessments now leaking through intelligence channels, is categorically unprecedented. Iran did not just lose a battle this morning. Iran lost the arsenal it spent 40 years constructing, the Persian Gulf, the hour before dawn. But the water sits flat and black under a cloudless sky, the surface broken only by the low chop of a light wind coming off the Zagros Mountains to the north. A commercial tanker moves slowly toward the strait, its navigation lights blinking orange against the dark. 5 kilometers to its south, barely visible from its bridge, the USS Gerald R. Ford moves at combat speed through the same water. She is a Gerald R. Ford-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. Made the most technologically advanced warship ever commissioned by any Navy in human history. Displacement: 100,000 tons. Length: 1,106 feet. An electromagnetic aircraft launch system capable of cycling aircraft faster than any steam catapult ever built. An air wing of 90 aircraft, 4 advanced weapons elevators, a crew of 5,000 sailors and aviators, most of them now moving through the final hours of the night watch, 2 hours before breakfast, and 3 hours before flight operations begin. Her SPY-6 radar rotates continuously. Her electronic warfare suite monitors every signal in the electromagnetic spectrum from the Kuwaiti coast to the Iranian mainland. Her combat air patrol, 2 F/A-18F Super Hornets at 22,000 feet, sweeps the airspace in a 60-kilometer radius. She is the most capable vessel ever placed in this water. And Iran is about to make the most catastrophic miscalculation in the entire history of its revolutionary military. If you want the complete truth about what happens when Iran targets an American aircraft carrier in 2026, hit like right now, because this story needs to reach every person who still believes Iran can afford to pull the trigger on the United States Navy. The Gerald R. Ford's carrier strike group stretches across 40 square kilometers of the Persian Gulf. Her escorts, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers USS Gravely and USS Delbert D. Black, carry a combined 196 vertical launch cells loaded with SM-6 air defense missiles, SM-3 ballistic missile interceptors, and Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. An attack submarine, USS Springfield, a Virginia-class fast attack boat, runs silent 300 meters beneath the surface, tracking every Iranian surface and subsurface contact within a 70-kilometer radius. The combined defensive firepower of this strike group is designed to handle simultaneous threats from multiple axes. It has been exercised against simulated missile swarms, against simultaneous ballistic and cruise threats, against the exact kind of attack that Iran's military planners have been refining for 3 decades. And still, what the IRGC launches at 03:48 hours this morning is not a test. It is the operational result of 30 years of studying exactly how to crack American carrier defenses in the compressed geography of the Persian Gulf, where distances are short, warning times are brutal, and the radar horizon is close enough to matter. The timeline begins at 03:48 hours, 48 minutes before nautical dawn. The watch has changed 11 minutes ago. Crew alertness is at its lowest biological point. From hardened positions in the mountains south of Shiraz, an IRGC ballistic missile regiment has been tracking the Gerald R. Ford for 14 hours, using a combination of over-the-horizon radar, passive acoustic sensors fed through undersea relay buoys, and surveillance drones flying at 60,000 feet beyond the reach of standard carrier air defense. The targeting solution is precise to within 9 meters. The battery commander receives authorization from IRGC Aerospace Force Headquarters. 2 Fattah 2 hypersonic ballistic missiles launch simultaneously. These are Iran's most capable anti-ship weapons, maneuvering hypersonic glide vehicles, terminal velocity exceeding Mach 13, designed to defeat SM-6 and SM-3 interceptors through a combination of extreme speed, plasma sheathing that degrades radar tracking, and unpredictable terminal maneuver. Flight time from launch position to the Gerald R. Ford, 3 minutes, 40 seconds. They do not come alone. Even 55 seconds after the ballistic missile's launch, 14 Shahed 238 turbojet supersonic drones released from 4 coastal positions along the Iranian mainland. Wave-top altitude, Mach 0.85, radar cross-section of a large bird. Radar horizon crossing time, 68 seconds of warning. Total detection to impact window for the drones, less than 2 minutes. The Gerald R. Ford's SPY-6 radar detects the hypersonic missiles at a range of 240 kilometers. Battle stations. When the strike group shifts to maximum defensive configuration in 9 seconds. SM-3 Block 2A missiles launch from USS Gravely in a 2-round salvo against each hypersonic threat. The first Fattah 2 executes a lateral maneuver at 90 kilometers. Both interceptors miss. A second salvo fires. One SM-3 gets a proximity kill, close enough to damage the seeker and partially disrupt the glide vehicle's terminal navigation. However, the damaged missile tumbles off its precise aim point but continues on a degraded ballistic trajectory. It strikes the Gerald R. Ford forward of the island superstructure at 0352 hours. The warhead design is semi-armor piercing. It enters through the flight deck at an oblique angle and detonates inside the upper gallery deck. The blast destroys 2 FA-18s on deck. The fireball is visible from the Iranian coast. The structural damage runs 70 meters forward along the flight deck. Yet 11 American sailors are killed immediately. 39 are wounded. The second Fattah 2, tracking flawlessly, strikes the flight deck at the number 3 weapons elevator. The elevator shaft becomes a blast conduit. The explosion travels downward into the hangar bay. 5 more Americans are killed. The Ford's damage control teams are already moving when the drones arrive. 9 are intercepted, 5 penetrate, 3 hit the Ford, 2 hit USS Gravely. And the destroyer's Combat Information Center takes a direct hit. 7 more sailors dead. Total casualties in 4 minutes. 23 Americans killed, 71 wounded. UR Gas Turbine Systems Technician 2nd Class Daniel Okafor, 26 years old, from Columbus, Ohio. You are the son of a Nigerian immigrant who drove a school bus for 22 years and told you every single night that this country was worth protecting. You joined the Navy 4 years ago. You have a daughter named Amara who is 3 years old and calls you Daddy on FaceTime every Sunday night without fail. This morning you are 3 levels below the flight deck when the first missile hits. The lights go out. The emergency lighting comes on. Red, dim, disorienting. You can hear the ship screaming around you, metal moving in ways it should not move. Your training does not feel like training right now. It feels like the only thing standing between your daughter's father coming home and your daughter growing up without one. You move toward the flooding indicator. You do what you were taught. You do it in the dark, in the smoke, in the noise, while everything around you is on fire. That is who is aboard that carrier. Not a platform, not an asset, not a data point in a strike assessment. A father who promised his daughter he would be home for her birthday. Comment Gerald below if you believe these sailors deserve to be defended, and if you believe Iran should face total consequences for every single American life lost on that flight deck this morning. Here is what the IRGC did not know, what no Iranian intelligence service, no proxy network, no Russian military advisor had any visibility into. 13 months before this attack, and following a sustained pattern of IRGC harassment operations against American carrier groups in the Persian Gulf, including 3 separate incidents involving Iranian fast boats conducting simulated attack runs on American destroyers, U.S. Central Command submitted a preemptive retaliation targeting package to the Secretary of Defense. The package was designated Operation Steel Anvil. It cataloged every Iranian military installation within 400 kilometers of the Persian Gulf that supports hypersonic missile operations, drone warfare, naval command, or air defense. 47 targets, hypersonic missile storage facilities, launch regiment command posts, targeting radar complexes, IRGC naval headquarters, underground drone manufacturing plants, coastal surveillance networks, satellite uplink stations feeding targeting coordinates to ballistic missile crews. The package assigned specific strike platforms to each target, calculated weapons loads, deconflicted approach routes, time on target precision sequencing for simultaneous impact across all 47 sites. The Secretary of Defense signed pre-delegated launch authority for Operation Steel Anvil 13 months ago. No White House authorization required, no National Security Council meeting required, no diplomatic consultation required before execution. And the trigger condition was explicit. Confirmed hostile fire from Iranian territory resulting in American service member casualties. Iran crossed that threshold the moment those Fattah 2 missiles left their launchers. The strike authorization transmits to 6 separate platforms simultaneously at 0355 hours, 3 minutes after the Gerald R. Ford took her first impact. USS Springfield, the Virginia-class attack submarine running silent beneath the strike group, carries 26 Tomahawk cruise missiles whose target coordinates were updated 6 hours ago during a pre-planned intelligence refresh cycle. She has been holding in a firing solution for this exact authorization for 19 days. On USS Georgia, a guided missile submarine pre-positioned in the Gulf of Oman 13 days ago, carries 154 Tomahawks and begins a coordinated ripple fire sequence the moment authorization reaches her. 3 B-21 Raider stealth bombers operating from an undisclosed forward base in the region, each carrying 8 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bunker-busting munitions targeted at hardened underground command infrastructure buried under the Iranian plateau. USS Gravely, despite her own battle damage, despite sailors dead in her combat information center, executes her assigned strike package from functioning vertical launch cells, and from the Gerald R. Ford herself, burning, damaged, her flight deck compromised but her weapon systems fully operational. 22F/A-18E. Super Hornets from 2 strike fighter squadrons receive updated targeting, arm their AGM-158CLR ASM, anti-ship missiles, and AGM-158 BJASSMERs, and begin attack profiles toward the Iranian coast. Type yes right now if you want to see every single Iranian target that gets hit in the next 8 minutes. Because what follows is the most concentrated destruction of a national military capability in the history of modern warfare. From authorization confirmation to last weapon released, 8 minutes, 4 seconds. First Tomahawk launches at 0357 hours from USS Springfield, made firing from submerged position of 190 meters beneath the surface. The weapon breaches, booster ignites, and the cruise missile turns north-northwest toward a target that was selected, programmed, and preloaded into its navigation computer before the Iranian missile regiment even began its pre-launch sequence this morning. USS Georgia begins ripple firing 70 Tomahawks in 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Each weapon already knows where it is going. Each weapon has known for weeks. The B-21s release their penetrators in coordinated 2-ship packages, each aircraft carrying 8 weapons timed to arrive in precise sequence. The first to breach, the second to follow through, the third and fourth to destroy everything below. The Super Hornets from the Gerald R. Ford release 64 LRASMs and JASSMERs from beyond Iranian radar detection range and reverse course back toward the burning carrier. Total weapons converging on 47 targets, 163 precision-guided munitions, all programmed, all flying, all arriving within a 40-second window of each other. The first impacts begin at 0407 hours, 15 minutes after the Gerald R. Ford took her first hit. IRGC Aerospace Force Western Command Center outside Shiraz, the nerve center that authorized, coordinated, and executed this morning's hypersonic launch. The facility sits beneath 12 meters of reinforced concrete and was designed to survive conventional cruise missile strikes based on analysis of American strikes in Iraq and Syria. 2 GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators change that calculation with mechanical finality. The first weapon penetrates the roof. The second follows the entry wound and detonates at the operations level. The facility, its staff, every officer who participated in targeting the Gerald R. Ford, the communications equipment connecting it to Tehran, and the backup generators that would have allowed it to continue operations, all of it ceases to exist in the same 4-second window. Fattah 2 Hypersonic Missile Storage and Launch Facility at Khorramabad, the regiment that launched this morning's attack. The vehicles, the reload transports, the liquid fuel farm, the crew support bunkers, the communications relay connecting the regiment to its command authority, 12 Tomahawks allocated. The first 4 weapons hit while IRGC crews are still sheltering in position bunkers following their launch operations. The facility does not survive to conduct a second launch, not this morning, Not ever again. Bandar-e-Bushehr IRGC Western Naval Command Headquarters, Iran's primary command authority for Persian Gulf military operations against American carrier groups. This is the institution that has been planning carrier kill scenarios for 15 years. On 4 B-21 munitions plus 8 Tomahawks. The headquarters building collapses. The underground operations level collapses into itself. The Intelligence Fusion Center that was monitoring the Gerald R. Ford's damage and preparing a follow-on strike assessment is buried under 30 meters of debris before it can transmit a single battle damage report back to Tehran. Share this video right now so that people everywhere understand what pre-authorized retaliation doctrine actually means when the weapons are already in the air before the enemy command even knows the response has been ordered. Asaluye IRGC Drone Manufacturing Complex, the facility responsible for producing the Shahed 238 weapons that hit the Gerald R. Ford and USS Gravely this morning. Underground production lines, component warehouses, finished weapons storage. The test and calibration facilities. 14 Tomahawks. The above-ground structures disappear in the first 6 impacts. The underground manufacturing level receives 4 penetrating warheads through collapsed roof sections. The production infrastructure that took 11 years to build is removed from the Iranian order of battle in 40 seconds. Bandar Imam Khomeini IRGC Fast Attack. Boat Base, Iran's largest forward naval base for Persian Gulf speedboat operations. On 63 missile-armed fast attack craft, fuel farms, weapons loading facilities. The pier complex takes 10 Tomahawks. The boats explode at their moorings as their missiles cook off. The fuel farm becomes a pillar of fire visible from Kuwait. The barracks, the maintenance facilities, the command tower, all receive direct hits inside a 90-second window. Keshem Island Coastal Targeting Radar Network, the radar complex that provided the continuous tracking data enabling this morning's precision targeting of the Gerald R. Ford's position. Without this network, Iran's hypersonic missiles cannot find a moving carrier in the Persian Gulf. 6 Tomahawks. The phased array arrays disappear in the first impacts. The backup radar disappears in the next 2. The power distribution facility, the data links feeding targeting coordinates to missile regiments, whereas the underground cable infrastructure, systematically removed. Iranian radar coverage of a 240-kilometer sector of the Persian Gulf goes permanently dark. 16 additional targets, regional command relay stations, hypersonic missile component depots, forward drone staging areas, air defense coordination nodes, and hardened communications bunkers receive allocated weapons from the remaining strike package. Total strike duration from first impact to last detonation, 5 minutes, 31 seconds. In that window, every system Iran spent decades building to threaten American carriers in the Persian Gulf is converted from operational military capability into burning, collapsed, irreplaceable rubble. If what you just heard shocked you to your core, comment Steel Anvil below, because what you just watched is not a response. It is the preloaded consequence that was waiting the moment Iran made its decision. Now, examine the exchange with absolute precision. Iran's attack, 16 weapons against 1 carrier group, 23 American sailors killed, 71 wounded, 1 aircraft carrier with severe but repairable flight deck damage, 1 destroyer with its combat information center destroyed. America's response, 163 precision weapons against 47 military installations. An estimated 740 Iranian Revolutionary Guard personnel killed. Iran's entire hypersonic missile launch capability in western Iran destroyed. Drone production infrastructure reduced by 93%. Persian Gulf Naval Command structure eliminated. Coastal radar coverage across a 240-kilometer sector permanently removed. 3 naval bases rendered permanently non-operational. 6 regional command centers destroyed. The arithmetic is not proportional. It was never meant to be proportional. It was meant to be instructive at a level that lasts for a generation. 16 Iranian weapons fired. 163 American weapons returned, 23 Americans dead, 740 Iranians dead, 1 carrier with repairable damage, 47 Iranian facilities permanently destroyed, and the strategic depth behind those numbers is more devastating than any individual target. Iran spent 16 weapons and activated the destruction of military infrastructure that cost $50 billion and 4 decades to construct. Infrastructure that cannot be rebuilt under current sanctions. Not in 18 months, not in 3 years, not as long as American strike platforms remain preloaded with targeting solutions and the pre-authorized response doctrine remains in force. The diplomatic response arrives on a predictable timeline. Iran's foreign ministry releases its statement within 90 minutes. The Gerald R. Ford violated an IRGC-designated maritime exclusion zone, a designation with no basis whatsoever in international maritime law. Iran acted in self-defense against illegal American military presence. The American response is naked aggression. The statement is released while satellite imagery of burning IRGC facilities floods every international news channel simultaneously. The United States releases its complete radar track showing the Gerald R. Ford's precise position, unambiguously in international waters, at the moment of attack. The missile launch tracking data, the signal's intelligence intercepts, emergency declassified, showing launch authorization flowing directly from IRGC Aerospace Force headquarters. The evidence reaches the United Nations, all NATO capitals, and every Gulf state government within 2 hours. Saudi Arabia issues an immediate statement condemning Iran's attack as an act of aggression against freedom of navigation and expressing full support for the American response. The UAE offers expanded basing access and port facilities for American vessel repair operations. Kuwait reaffirms its defense cooperation commitments. Bahrain places its facilities on full availability for American forces. Even Qatar, which has maintained careful diplomatic balance with Tehran, and issues a statement expressing grave concern about Iranian military conduct in shared waterways. The Gulf states have spent 30 years watching Iran expand its military reach. They do not issue condolences to Tehran. They welcome the framework America just demonstrated. Here is what changes after the Gerald R. Ford incident. And here is why the 8-minute response does not just terminate one engagement. It permanently rewires every future Iranian military calculation in a way that no diplomatic communique, no sanctions package, no naval patrol schedule had ever managed to achieve. Operation Steel Anvil establishes a deterrence architecture with one irreversible lesson at its foundation. Successful attacks on American military forces do not initiate deliberation. They do not trigger proportional responses calibrated for international optics. They do not generate measured diplomatic statements while the target assesses its next move. They trigger preloaded, pre-aimed, pre-authorized devastation on a timeline so compressed that Iranian commanders have no window to evacuate key personnel, disperse critical equipment, transmit meaningful battle damage reports, or issue any coherent orders. The weapon that fires against an American warship does not only destroy its target, it simultaneously activates the complete destruction of every facility that enabled that weapon to fly. The IRGC commander who authorizes a strike on the USS Gerald R. Ford is not authorizing an attack on a carrier. He is authorizing the simultaneous demolition of his own command center, his own targeting networks, his own missile storage, his own naval headquarters, his own career, his own life. The 8-minute response is not a demonstration of American technological reaction speed. It is pre-planned devastation that was authorized, targeted, and digitally loaded into weapons systems 13 months before Iran ever gave the launch order. The decision to retaliate was already made. The weapons were already aimed. All that was required was confirmation that Iran had done exactly what American strategic planners had predicted, modeled, war-gamed, and prepared for across 13 months of quiet certainty. They did. The response was already airborne before the IRGC battery commander had finished logging his launch confirmation. The USS Gerald R. Ford returns to Bahrain under her own power, flight deck on fire control, propulsion fully operational. Damage assessment estimates 12 months of repair. Gas turbine systems, technician second class Daniel Okafor survives the attack. Then he is awarded the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal for his actions during flooding control operations in the dark below the flight deck. His daughter Amara sees him on FaceTime 4 days later when the ship reaches port. She tells him she drew a picture of his ship. He keeps it. The 23 sailors killed are returned to American soil with full military honors. Their families are notified before any public statement is released. Their names will be added to the memorial. They were 22 years old, 25 years old, 31 years old, 40 years old. They had children and parents and hometowns and plans that were not finished. They were aboard a ship doing exactly what American warships have done in the Persian Gulf for 4 decades, ensuring that international waters remain open to all nations, that global commerce flows without a regional power holding a choke point hostage to its political ambitions. They paid the price that mission has always carried. And the response to their deaths delivered a lesson that every IRGC officer from Bushehr to Tehran will be calculating for the next 20 years. The Persian Gulf does not change on the morning of the Gerald R. Ford attack. Iranian vessels still patrol it. Iranian missiles still sit in hardened positions overlooking it. Iranian radar systems, those that remain, still track American ships moving through it. But every Iranian commander who stands watch in that region now carries knowledge they did not possess before. They know what activating a targeting solution against an American warship costs. They know what 8 minutes means at the operational level. And they know with absolute certainty that the response will already be in the air before they can reach the exit of their own command bunker. That is the lesson the Persian Gulf teaches in March 2026. That is what pre-authorized response architecture looks like when you are the one receiving it. So I want to ask you something directly. Knowing everything you now know about Operation Steel Anvil, knowing the retaliation was pre-authorized, pre-targeted, and already loaded into weapon systems 13 months before Iran gave the launch order, would you have ordered that attack on the USS Gerald R. Ford knowing exactly what was waiting on the other side of that decision? And knowing that 8 minutes after your missiles hit the flight deck, every facility your military operates from would be collapsed rubble? Drop a comment below right now telling me whether you believe the 8-minute response was the correct answer, or whether America crossed a line. And if you want to understand more scenarios where military miscalculations collide with preloaded American military doctrine, subscribe right now. This channel breaks down the weapons, the strategies, and the decisions that define how modern conflict actually unfolds when someone is either brave enough or blind enough to strike first. Hit that subscribe button, because the next scenario is already being planned, and someone needs to explain what happens when it executes.